cup of coffee, then I'll go.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Armenia. Welcome back to Coffee Time every Sunday. I don't think I've missed a Sunday. And for those who are just tuning in, Coffee Time is basically part of the Grand Colombia channel, where Grand Colombia channel, I put up videos of my life, my adventures, my boring day-to-day things in South America. I've got a couple hundred videos when I lived in Ecuador, and I've actually, this last month in November, exceeded the number of videos that I made in Ecuador here in Colombia. So I'm over 200 here in Colombia. One of the purposes of the live is to give you an opportunity to ask questions. We do that towards the end of, well, basically after I cover the things I want to talk about, then you can pose questions. I'll answer them the best I can. Good morning, Christopher. And it's also as crass as it is. It's a fundraising attempt to pay for the cost of doing it, travel and equipment and assorted things like that to keep the channel going. So basically, if you feel that you get any value out of it and you care to contribute, it's certainly welcome and it's put to good use. Little commercial plug there. Just imagine that you're watching PBS. Okay. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Is everything coming out okay? I think we've got this down and seems to be functioning, but I never know. So post up if you can hear me. Also, if you're hearing any echoes, let me know. So today, what I'm going to cover probably won't take too long today. I've got a lot of things I've got to get done today, and I don't have a lot of topics to go over in depth, but I do want to do an update on the protests. I'm still getting questions about that. I've done, of course, in the last week, seen more things going on, and I also saw the chief homicide detective of Armenia again yesterday and asked a little bit about the protests to verify information I got, and so I'll relay that. Robert is back in town, brought a friend with him, and we took a trip to Salento into Finlandia, so I'll talk a little bit about that. That'll be an upcoming video. And a contributor sent money to sponsor a video to go to the coffee park. So this coming week, I'll be going there doing a video, and within about a week of that, it'll be out. I think you'll find it very interesting. Coffee Park is like Colombian Disneyland. So let's get to it. Nobody's mentioned. Can you hear me okay? Are you hearing any vibrations? How do you like my tree? That was a gift. It was brought and set up for me. How nice that is. See, now I'm pausing because I'm concerned whether you can hear me okay or not. And I have a reason for that. This software is a little finicky. Yes, good, awesome, thank you, appreciate it. I had to turn down the sound on my laptop for a particular reason, and I wasn't sure if that would have an effect. It shouldn't, but you never know. Okay, thanks everybody. Okay, protest update. The protest was actually a planned national strike, and there was nothing that really was all that crazy happening here. Voice out of sync. Yeah, that's a never-ending thing. There was violence in two places, in Cali and in Bogota. there was violence. I think a total of 4 people died. 3 of the 4 were police. But I want to give this all a little perspective. Here in Armenia, it was very calm. Now, I did have somebody tell me that they knew somebody who they see almost daily, said that there was tear gas that went off on the second day. Hello, Robert. Yep, you're the Robert that we were talking about. So you're sitting here in Armenia watching this video about Armenia and relating to you. So, yesterday I asked the chief homicide detective. He runs all of it for this area. He was worked in Bogota, lived in Bogota, and he was assigned to Armenia. So now he lives here and he brought his family here. He loves it here. And so I asked him about it, and he said that there actually was no tear gas. Now, this is a conflicting story because Justin's friend said that she was actually there a block from where I live, and the tear gas went off and they had trouble breathing. And William, the police, he's been very frank. He's talked to me directly about police corruption, and he's never tried to hide anything. He was actually at the time sitting in this control center because there's cameras all over, and he was viewing the cameras, and there's actually a camera that's in that area in front of Mokawa because it's a very popular area. And he said that there was violence that broke out on the second day. There was basically a fist fight, but he said there was no tear gas. I'm kind of prone to believe him because he's been such a good source in the past. But there you go. I just tell you that's the way it is. Now, here in Armenia, for the 4 days, there was basically a meeting down at Bolivar Park, which where it always happens, music and dancing and food and that sort of thing. And then the first day, no alcohol was sold, which was not true second, third, fourth day. But also, because I live a couple blocks from the University of Quindío, organizers put together a group there every day in the afternoon. I think it was about 5 o'clock, and nothing's that punctual here, but around 5 o'clock. And they would gather there, and then they would march down to my building, and then turn right, and then march down to 19, which is a major thoroughfare. So every day in the afternoon, I would see these groups go by, or this group. And honestly, it was probably about a couple hundred people. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you. Let me just show you. On the last day, which groups were all about the same, this is about 2 minutes. I'll leave the sound on. This I actually took from my balcony. To be perfectly honest with you, it almost reminded me of a circus parade. I'll let this run for a little bit more so you can see the end of it. This is about it. ready to wrap this one up. So for Armenia, this was the total size of the group that would march every day. That's the end right there. So, also here in Armenia, businesses supposedly, because of the national strike, was supposed to just shut down, shut everything down. Pretty much everything was open. Now I do understand that on a couple of the days, some of the stores closed in the evening. There was concern here because of what they were hearing in Bogota. There was and a curfew was put on in Bogota. There was concern that something might happen here, but Armenia is just kind of not like that. And so you saw what you saw. It was what was happening here. It's like it was people out for a good time. They were feeding off the energy of the group. I got feedback from some people that were actually in it, and they said, "Oh, it's awesome," And it was surprising is how few people really understand what they were doing and what it was about. But I guess it maybe shouldn't be surprising. I would love to go deeper on that because I've got some real opinions on that, but I don't want to take all day. In Cali and Bogota, what you had, and this again was confirmed for me, is you had the protesters who were pretty much like here in Armenia, just peaceful out protesting, but then you had infiltrators. I don't know what else to call them. People that were not part of that group, but infiltrated into that group, and for their own purposes, just like you're seeing in a lot of countries. Think of it as when Antifa gets involved in things and everything kind of goes off the rails because that's their purpose and intention. Freebird, thank you very much. I appreciate that. First contribution of the month. So you have vandals, but you also have looters. And it was an opportunity for looters to pick up a new TV or something. Does this sound familiar? I mean, every time you see these things in the United States, think Occupy Wall Street. I mean, that's kind of what happens. So it was happening in Cali and Bogota. But you also saw many acts of kindness, and I got quite a bit of feedback on this. For example, there was an incident in Medellin, quickly, where some vandals were vandalizing a building and spray painting it, and the protesters went over, not only stopped them, but cleaned it up. And there was a number of reports of where the looters would come and try to break a window or something, and the protesters that were near would go grab them and hold them for the police. In other words, they didn't want any of that. That's not what they were there for. And it's where they live, and it's where they were born and grew up, and they don't want to see anything destroyed either. And from what I understand, I won't swear to this, but from what I understand, a lot of these were people, the infiltrators were people that were not even Colombian. Okay, so that's the update on that. Medellin was calm and peaceful. Cali, Bogota had some violence. Armenia, it was just another day with about 20 minutes of a circus marching band going by. So Robert came to town, who commented on here, and he said, "Hey, the people I was going to go to Salento, haven't heard from them. I got an extra seat in the car. Do you want to go?" So I said, "Yeah, sure, let's go." So we went to Salento. I've got some pictures here. There will be some video on this, but just some weird pictures that I found on my camera. I think some I actually snapped accidentally, but So we went to Salento. Robert, he had a friend from Mexico, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. I'm horrible with names. Um, so, so we went to Salento, kind of walked around. I showed him a few touristy things, and then somebody came up with the idea, which was fine with me. Was, hey, maybe we should drive over to Finlandia. We've got time. So we did. We drove over to Finlandia, and I actually, in a lot of ways, prefer Finlandia. And what these are two towns that are basically been kept in their traditional fashion. People live there, work there, but so many people come as tourists that you have a lot of touristy things that also take place now. It didn't used to be that way. And just quickly, and I mentioned this in a Salento video before, Salento was kind of an unknown place here in Colombia until the earthquake happened in '99. And what happened in Salento is a lot of people came, there was a lot of damage there, and a lot of people came and helped. And from what I understand, there's about 20,000 people that came and, would spend 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days there working just to help this town put itself back together, because it's a really tiny town. It's probably got a population of about 30,000, so double the population pretty much came to help them. And the people that came got that good feeling, that you get from things like that. And word spread. And over the course of the next handful of years, people came to check this place out. And Salento represents the heart of Colombia, the best of Colombia. I used this example yesterday. Think of 9/11. When 9/11 happened, it was a tragedy. It was horrible. But look how everybody came together. You had people of different political persuasions and religions and whatever standing up and, speaking out. And you had a massive number of people go joining the military, almost like it was a Pearl Harbor. People go, when they reflect back, aside from the horror, that unity that the country felt is what a lot of people fondly remember. And here in Colombia, that was their moment. It was one of, there's others in history, but that was a moment that showed the best of Colombia. And it couldn't happen in a more scenic location in a town that's just so historical that goes back to important era of Colombia. And so it's become more and more tourists. Now, the vast majority of tourists, of course, are Colombians themselves. And, many of them know the story. Younger people very often I find don't, but no surprise. So we go to Salento and we go to Finlandia, and the food you're seeing here was 3 of the 4 dishes that we had for lunch, and we went to a Puerto Rican restaurant. Leave it to Robert to find the only Puerto Rican restaurant in probably 300-mile radius, but it was really, really good. Mine was. I had mofongo. And it was excellent. So there will be video coming out on that. I already mentioned the contributor who is covering the video. He's basically sponsoring the video to the coffee park. If you've never been there, you can look it up on the internet, Parque del Café. It's a pretty fascinating place. It's got historical scenes and what do you call those dioramas where they make these little miniature models of coffee plantations, and it's got all kinds of things that are like educational at the beginning. Then you walk down through this huge bamboo forest, although now I haven't been there in 16, 17 years, but they have a teleferica or a cable car that goes from the top down and down up. And that's kind of good because it's one heck of a hike when you finish at the bottom and have to come back up. It kills everybody hiking up this steep walkway, and now they have that. But when you walk down, you go through all this huge bamboo, and then you also walk through this forest of coffee. Now the Arabica bean, which everybody thinks is the best for coffee because it is, that grows more in bushes or small trees. But the Robusto will grow like a pine tree, and it'll get really tall. And so you walk through some of those. And then when you get down there, I thought it was kind of cute. You go to Disneyland and you see Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and Goofy. They're walking around in their costumes. Well, here you got Juan Valdez walking around with his donkey with bags of coffee on it, or you have this big stuffed coffee bean. Here, let me. Yeah, I forgot to pull that off. You get this big stuffed coffee bean, and it's kind of cute. And you have some really good modern roller coasters. I went on the internet to see what I've missed out on. You got water slides and water rides and rafting, and there's a train, kind of like Disneyland. There's a train that you can ride. But you can also take that train to a nearby attraction called Panaca, which is kind of a rustic. You can go horseback riding. You can watch how they make certain things. Think Frontier Town or Williamsburg, Virginia, where you can go and see people in their original costumes doing original things. So you've got an area like that, which is pretty fascinating. One of the funniest things I ever saw was they have pig races. There's this oval track, and they have numbers on these pigs, and everybody's up in the stand drinking like crazy and gambling on the pigs for each race. And it's just hilarious watching these pigs run around the track. I don't know. I guess you had to be there. So I have a contributor for that particular video. I tentatively plan to get out there this coming week, and the video should be done for the following week. Just an update on the channel. We did miss the goal for November, so that latest filter and stuff, and I'll go over the camera because I know there's some interest with some of you. I'll do a video on that, and those who aren't interested in a camera review can just skip it. You'll know when you see it. So we did miss the goal for November, but I fully expected it, and I did everything I could to keep expenses down because going into the holiday, I completely understand. So if you have questions, now's the time. I told you it was going to be a quick one today, about 10 minutes shorter than usual. 4 question marks, and then ask the question, and if we get some, then we'll answer. We'll go till you're done, but if we don't get any questions, then we'll just go ahead and sign off. What do we got? I know there's a bit of a delay from when I'm talking to what comes up on the screen. So 4 question marks, ask your question. Now come on, you had 24 minutes to think of your question, right? Maybe no questions this week. I don't want to have a ton of dead air. Well, Freebird, thank you very much for the contribution. I very much appreciate it. To others, I don't always know. Many people want to remain anonymous, but I did get a GoFundMe, and I appreciate that. I got a new Patreon member. I appreciate that. And got a couple questions here. Why were the protesters striking? There's a whole bunch of reasons, and most of it is just misunderstanding. And this is a topic, if anybody's interested, I'm very interested in it, and I'm considering it more in depth on some particular things about what goes on here in Colombia. Colombia is not allowed by law to exceed their budget. They have to have a balanced budget. And as costs go up, they look for ways to save money. Also, young people here, 30 and under, really don't have a clue of how much Colombia has progressed in the last 20 years. It's, for me, it's such a stark thing, because I was here, in that time period before, and I'm here now, and so seeing these differences is just massive. Unemployment was over 50% then. It runs around 8 to 9% now. 8 to 9% is high. It's a lot, but it's nothing like the over 50%. So the economy here has just been on an upward climb, and it continues to do so. But the president wants to address this, this unemployment, and one of the issues is they have a minimum wage. And he's proposed, it's not law yet, but they proposed that they take minimum wage for, I think it's 18 and under, maybe it's 20 and under, and alter that minimum wage to 75% of the minimum wage. So it'll make it a little less expensive, hire a few more people. Businesses could, bring in more people, starting jobs. And that was one of the things they're protesting, because they're seeing it. They don't understand. It's amazing how many people don't understand that the government actually has no money, and it has to come from somewhere, and how much things like minimum wages, for example, can impact the number of jobs. And so there's arguments on both sides, but that's a proposal. So that's a big one. Another reason, and there's a list of about 10 things, but another reason is universities want more money. Universities always want more money, and there's two things that there are protests in this country for all the time, 4 or 5 times a year, and that's more money for universities and gasoline prices. If gasoline prices spike up, then you'll see taxi cab drivers, protesting when they're not out driving their cabs. They work in shifts for rate increases. We need a rate increase because the gas price went up. Yeah, but the gas price only went up here for 2 weeks, and then it drops down. It's actually lower, and so that's just how that is. Another thing is there was a proposal about altering retirement money. Now, because it's not law, some of the details to me are a little fuzzy, because I've seen some conflicting things. Maybe somebody's got something definitive. But the idea basically is we don't have the money to keep paying these pensions, and maybe we need to modify and in some places, cut or do something with that. So those are the big things. The first two, the minimum wage and the more money for universities, were the biggest things. So that's that. Any update on the water bill? Easier way? Yes, thank you. I actually wanted to bring this up in a video, so here we go. I don't know when it happened, but I noticed on the back of my water bill, it was actually pointed out by somebody, said, "Oh, you can pay that near your house now." And they said, well, "Show me your water bill." So here's a water bill. She flipped it over and said, "You see here?" So I went back and I looked at water bills when I first came, and they're a different design. That wasn't there, but it's there. So somewhere in the last year, it's changed. And this is the same person who told me when I asked a year ago, "No, you have to go there." Well, now she was aware you don't have to go there anymore. I can go and pay in any number of the banks. I walked into Davivienda and I was out of there in about 2 minutes. No problem. So I can now pay all of my bills within a few blocks. Oh, there is a place now, they have a website, and I'm told you will be able to pay online, but when I went there, the page was like a 404 error, so I guess they're building it, designing it now. Why did I forget my new hat in the taxi? Yes, I got a hat, Salento, a hat that I'll wear for my Colombian videos. I don't like to wear hats, and I wore it around after I got it, but then I threw it in the back of the car, and he's not a taxi, but I threw it in the back of the car and just forgot it because I don't really wear hats. I don't like hats. I don't like to wear hats. U.S. dollar stronger than ever. It's 35.15. Do you feel things are less expensive, rent, etc.? Well, no, they're not less expensive. They're all the same price. It doesn't change. I can receive more money. I can receive more pesos for the dollars that I have. So if you have, for example, $1,000, and if you came here when I came here 15, 16 months ago, it was 2,800 pesos to the dollar. It's now 35.15, highest ever. So it's 5, 6, 700 pesos per the dollar more than I was getting then. So you figure it out. Yes, it's definitely more money in your pocket, but there's really no inflation here. So my rent is 850,000 pesos a month. It was that way when I got here. It'll be that way next month and the month after. So there's really no inflation. Okay, I like this question. Are Bills for real after beating the Cowboys? The Bills are for real. What you saw is for real. That's what they've been doing all year. Unfortunately, they're not world beaters yet, but they do keep improving. So I don't know. They're definitely on the right path. They got the right talent. They've got the right attitude. They do keep improving. The quarterback just gets better and better and better. And I don't know. This year, they'll probably. My guess is they'll go 1 or 2 games into the playoffs. But if they keep going on this path, then they could be a contender maybe next year. Who knows? But it's been a long time. You know, if you're a Bills fan, you got to have patience. Cowboys suck, coming from a Cowboys fan. Well, the sweet thing about that, that game was the Cowboys are really a sore subject for Bills fans. And if you think back to the Super Bowls, the first one with the Giants, the Bills actually, except for one quarter, they outplayed in that game. And if it wasn't for that missed field goal, they won that game. So you say, it was a really good matchup. And then you had the Redskins. And the problem with the Redskins Super Bowl was the offensive line, they were all injured. And they had tight ends actually playing as offensive linemen. And because of that, Jim Kelly got a concussion in that game, and he played most of the game being loopy. I mean, when he left, he went to the wrong hotel. It was that was what they did in those days, and he wouldn't come out. He called the same play 3 times in a row, and so they lost that game, and that wasn't much of a surprise. But then you got to the Cowboys, and that was when the Cowboys were just steamrolling, and the first game, that's the one Thurman Thomas, he lost his helmet, and the Cowboys just beat them. And then, the Super Bowl after, because 4 Super Bowls in a row the Bills went to, and the last one, they just got pummeled. And so, it's those Cowboy games that really kind of were painful. They were really painful. And so, watching the Bills kick them when they were down, and they were actually trying to get back up, and so that didn't go over real well. So, it was a satisfying game if you're a Bills fan. Do I see Christmas and holiday spirit in Pareda actually happening? Colombia loves holidays, any excuse to party. I'm surprised they haven't even adopted Thanksgiving yet, which is uniquely United States. But you saw my Halloween video. They're more into Halloween than in the U.S. Uh, in different ways. Here, Christmas began, God, back in October. The stores had all kinds of Christmas stuff out. We just had Black Friday, which runs all weekend. It's still going today. They've adopted Black Friday. It's called Black Days. Black Days. And because it's not just Friday. And like I said, people are into Christmas. This tree right here, my, we'll say girlfriend, she see, I don't need a tree. You know how it is. It doesn't matter. But she insisted, so she went out and bought all this stuff and spent 3 hours here putting it all together. And it's like, I guess I'm going to get in the Christmas spirit whether I like it or not. But that's how much people are into Christmas here. You can't go to a store without seeing Christmas trees all over the place. I even contemplated, because I saw so many Christmas trees, of just stopping at every store and showing a video shot of all these Christmas trees. Yeah, the Christmas spirit is here. It's probably equally religious aspect as it is the Santa gift giving, Winter Wonderland fantasy Christmas. They're both here. They're both alive and well, very strong. But like I say, these people love their parties. They love any excuse to have a holiday, to get together, to socialize. And so, Christmas, are you kidding me? Yeah, it's Christmas spirit was born here, I think. Yeah. Last night was a big Christmas kickoff. What's it called? La Arboleada. Arboleada. La Arboleada. Okay, that's basically the tree, the arbor tree. So, as a matter of fact, my friend, she said, well, I won't see you until Sunday because I'm going to my sister's, which she lives right next to where there's I guess a Christmas parade. I don't actually know, and I wasn't inclined to go because it's around midnight. I just didn't feel like it. I had a big long day, and I'm old and tired, and so I didn't want to go. So she went. She said that she was going to take a video with her cell phone, and if those are any good, I'll share those with you. Okay, that's it for the questions. I guess that's it. So, thank you guys for everything. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you next Sunday. And we've got some pretty good videos coming up in the next week and the week after. See you soon. And Freebird, thank you once again.